Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your boy O here on the Church's Pulse here on Daily Faith Network. I am so excited about tonight's broadcast. Listen, we have a special lineup waiting on you for tonight. I have Pastor DuPree from the Embrace Church. I have Pastor Byrd from the Love Center Church, Melbourne. Hey, before we get going, please make sure you let everybody know that we are live on Daily Faith Network. You can watch us on the app, on your Roku, on your Fire Stick, on your Apple TV, simply by searching Daily Faith Network. Download the app, rate us 5 stars if you would, please. Or by web, dailyfaithnetwork.com. Hit the Watch Live tab, and you'll be able to see this broadcast. Listen, I'm excited. Y'all excited? I'm excited. Yes, sir. Let's get this thing going. Pastor DuPree, welcome to the Church's Pulse. How are you? Uh-oh, you're muted. I cannot.
Let me just make sure you can hear me. You got me?
Yes, sir. I got you. All
right.
We good. We good. Hey, Pastor Alex, welcome to the Church's Pulse. How are you, sir?
Man, I'm excited to be here. It's awesome. I done watched a few episodes. I was like, let me fill out a form, see if I can get on here too.
Man. Glad to have you. Pastor Bree, I don't see your volume going. How about this? This is a live show. I love stuff about a live show. We're going to be right back. We'll allow Pastor Bree to reconnect on here, and then we'll kick back. All right. So everybody, keep it locked right here. We'll be right back. Hey, we got her back. Let's go.
I don't know what that was.
See, hey, listen. It don't take God long to do nothing. We just reconnect. You know, it's a live show. Hey, have a little fun. Hey, listen, Pastor Alex, welcome again to the Church's Pulse. Here on Daily Faith
Make sure
Network.
the devil ain't in my sound system, is it? You got me? You got me? All right. We in here. Let's go.
We in here, man. We in here. Pastor DuPree, welcome again to the Church's Pulse.
So much.
Yes, how you feeling?
I feel excellent. I'm so glad to be here.
Absolutely. I'm glad that you were able to connect with us here on tonight. Listen, we don't want to drag out this show. It's going to be an hour packed, a lot of information, a lot of content, and there's great information throughout tonight's broadcast. Pastor DuPree, give the people a little bit of background, a little bit of history, and Embrace Church.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Bree, and I have the honor of leading a community that we're calling Embrace Church. And so we're a bit unique in that we pastor people in the middle. What do you mean by in the middle? Those are people who may have been hurt by the church, people who aren't currently attending church, people who may be interested in Christianity but don't know how they feel about organized religion or about attending a church service. So what we do is we said, hey, how about we provide a safe space for you to learn how to read the Bible, for you to learn how to pray, for you to learn how to worship, for you to learn how to give, in a safe Christian community. And then we literally pastor people to other Christ-centered communities and churches. And so we say, hey, stick with us for a little bit. That might be 2 months, that might be 2 years, but eventually the end goal is for them to eventually be connected to a local church or a local Christ-centered community to really grow and be pastored in that way. So we're intentionally trying to stay small and really trying to help the local church. We want to be a blessing to the local church very intentionally and minister to that in-between gap and that in-between space. And so that's what I do with Embrace, and I love it. It's a lot of work, but we love what we get to do. We have chapters that are growing all across the nation, and so we're excited about what God's doing. But that's a little bit about Embrace and where we're at right now.
All right. Yeah. When I first heard of your ministry, I thought it was very unique. Personally, I've never heard of a ministry function quite like yours. So I just want to say thank you for filling in that need in the body of Christ. Absolutely. There's no competition. Just so many things that could have happened for those people in the middle. But that's absolutely true. There is a ministry for the people that are in the middle. So thank you. You have chapters, you said. Right now you're in Cali?
Yes, right now I'm in Los Angeles.
Oh, Los Angeles. Okay,
Right now,
so talk to me.
Right now I'm in Los Angeles, California. We have a chapter here, and we're actually we're gearing up we have a conference coming up in October. So I'm here getting some things together and preparing for that conference coming up. And our conferences really serve as a space for the church, followers of Jesus, people who are in that middle space too, to come and to worship through music, prayer, and rest. So we do all those things. We have a nice worship service, a prayer time, and also have some fun, hang out on the beach, have some fun together. So looking forward to that. So yeah, we have chapters here. We have a chapter in Orlando, Florida. We're developing a chapter in Buffalo, and then we have a chapter that's kind of forming in Ohio. So excited about what God's doing for sure.
All right.
Yeah.
You do serve at a local church. Where do you serve at?
Yes, I serve at the Experience Christian Center under Bishop Derek L. McCray, and so I'm one of the ministers there. I get to serve in that capacity as well. Because of the uniqueness of our ministry, I also get to be the lead pastor of Embrace, but also I get to serve under Bishop McCray and under that church as well. So very happy to be there and excited about what God's doing there as well.
That's pretty dope. That is pretty dope, man. I love it. Pastor Alex Byrd from the Love Center Church in Melbourne. What's going on over there, Doc?
Nothing much, man. Just happy to be here. Excited to be on with such great people. Hearing about her ministry has already excited me as we get ready to go into this topic. And it's just so amazing to see how God is using others, as well as seeing what he's doing even in the midst of our community as well.
So tell us a little bit more about Love Center Church Melbourne. What is your function at Love Center Church Melbourne?
I am a staff pastor for Love Center Church Melbourne. My motto that I usually like to live by is everything but the toilets. So whatever it is that we need done, I make sure that we get it done. Primarily, I'm over our discipleship efforts. So I lead things like our Bible studies, the various love circles that we call them, or our cell groups. I try to administrate those along with an awesome team of people who actually lead the groups. And I also am on staff as a musician as well, play a little bass every now and then when I can. And man, just loving God, loving people, finding purpose and serving the community. That's all we do at Love Center Church Melbourne.
I love it. Listen, we're going to get right into our discussions tonight. I do have a short video we're going to play and then get right into it. Here we go.
You ever watch those shows on television, where they show the predators like the lions or the alligators even, and they're waiting for an unsuspecting animal. And often there'll be a flock of, whatever, gazelles, jumping along, and they're all together, or zebras, right? And the lion, lions don't like to waste energy, right? They just sit there out in the sun, and they're waiting for the one guy that separates from the pack, the slow one. So there goes all the gazelles, boom, 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 the one guy in the back, kind of just looking around. Lion says, "That looks like lunch to me." And he grabs that one and he pulls it down. And that's what happens to us. When we're with God's people, we're moving in harmony. There's safety in numbers, praying for one another, encouraging one another. But when you're the straggler, When you're far away from everybody else, you come in sorta, you're in enough to kind of know what's going on, but you're at a distance, you know? When you come to church, you always sit in the back row. I'm kidding. It's okay to sit in the back row. But seriously, sometimes these are the ones who are the last to get here. I don't get it. Now, I know when you're working, it's hard to get in on time, but, don't miss worship if you can avoid it, okay? If you can't get here until you get here at that time, fine, you're welcome. But when worship is happening, you want to be a part of that, engaged in it. And don't be the first to leave. I got to get out of here, Engage, be a part of what God is doing. This is why we encourage you to get involved in these V2 groups, the Virtue group, the Valor group, a small group. Make a big church, a small church. Meet some people. Develop some friendships of Christian brothers and sisters that you can engage with and even have an accountability to, and have people to pray for you and help you through life. There's great things to do. Don't be the straggler. Don't be the person following at a distance who has too much of the world to be happy in the Lord, but too much of the Lord to be happy in the world. That's a miserable no man's land. To put it theologically, it sucks.
Ooh. Honest feedback.
Wow.
Any different because of your ministry? I think every church should assess this question. Pastor Alex, talk
absolutely.
To me.
I know if I had to be honest, I would say just because I'm tough on myself and the measure by which I, kind of look at the standard of ministry, I would say that the community is not different enough because of my ministry. There's always room for improvement. There's always room for things you can do better. And no matter how good a sermon goes, no matter how impactful a Bible study is, no matter how well an outreach effort may go, I'm always looking at there's something more that can be done. So while I can say that my ministry has made an impact, I'm still looking for God to use me to make more of an imprint.
You were saying more. I can do more. Why do you feel like you can do more? Like, what's your conviction, that you can be doing more?
Well, that one's easy. I watch the news from time to time, and I see places where I grew up where people are getting killed. I see stories on the news where our children aren't even safe in schools because of some of the foolishness that's going on in our communities. Yeah. I see news of drive-by shootings and bodies being found in places where it's typically been safe my entire life. I can see people making a lot of hard decisions because of economic downturn. I don't have to walk far from the church to see poverty or to see people struggling. The list goes on, but there's so many more things and so many more ways we can be impactful that I can never be satisfied with what I've already done.
Pastor Bree, with your ministry function, pastoring people in the middle, how can you speak to this question? Is the community different in each chapter? That community, is it any different because that you're there?
I think, I would hope so, is how I can answer that honestly. I think we want to make sure that people who are in that middle space have a safe place to land. And we operate from the belief that the church is the primary vehicle by which God has chosen to share the gospel. And so we can help local churches, if we can help those people in the middle, then those people should be empowered then to be disciples to influence where they are. And so what we're really trying to do is a model that I think comes right from Scripture, where we're trying to build up people and build up churches so they can go out into the world and make an impact. And so I would say I hope so, because I hope that we are investing in the people who are part of our chapters in such a way that then they go and make an impact in their own communities, whether that be in their jobs, their neighborhoods, their schools, their own local churches when they get there. And so that's the end goal and the end game for that. And like we were saying before the show started, Embrace is only 2 years old, and so I'm not sure we can quite quantify that quite yet, but that would be the goal on how Embrace could impact the community outside of the four walls of the church.
Pastor Alex, how do you measure impact from a ministry in the community? How do you measure impact?
The number one way for me is souls won for the kingdom of God. A lot of the things that we do are awesome, and a lot of the things we do are nice, but at the end of the day, does it equate to somebody choosing Jesus as a result of the love that we show? That's the number one impact. Then after that, there are some things that come along with it that are measurable, like number of families you fed,
Sure.
Number of kids you've given supplies to for school. We did a huge drive where we gave out over 100 pairs of shoes, and things like those are very impactful as well and needed also. Like I love it when churches offer Jesus and not necessarily Jesus or.
Very good. Very good.
I have to roll into this. The Great Commission. Pastor Bree, this is right up your alley.
Absolutely.
And understanding your ministry function, I went on your website, just really trying just to get a feel for it. And a piece of me felt like the church failed in an area because you were needed. That's all I can say. That's all, like, without talking too much. Speak about the Great Commission from your vantage point.
Absolutely. The Great Commission, I believe, is really about producing disciples. And Eugene Peterson said, discipleship is a long obedience in the same direction. And so I think where we got it wrong in the church is that we made discipleship a program. So we made discipleship a 7-week course, and now you're discipled. Rather, discipleship is actually a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 year journey with an individual.
Absolutely.
And I think, honestly, we got a little lazy because we wanted to see numbers in our chairs rather than people who are actually being healthy and growing in Christ. And so when I think of the Great Commission, I want to see people come to Jesus, but I also want to see them change and develop holistically. I want to see them be financially stable. I want to see them be emotionally healthy. I want to see them be mentally healthy. I want to see them know how to treat their husbands and their wives and their kids. I want to see growth beyond the fact that you come to church every Wednesday and Sunday morning. That's good, and I love that. But what happens outside of that? So I believe the Great Commission is, how do we develop other people and their spiritual growth, which then should have impact everywhere, right? There's no such thing as putting our spirituality in one category and the rest of our life in another category. We are spiritual beings, and so everything we do is spiritual. And so how do we teach people how to worship God in the way in which He desires to be worshipped in every aspect of life? And so that's what I think the Great Commission is, and it's a lot harder than 7 weeks and done. It's getting in people's mess. It's helping them along the ups and downs. It's being patient with them. It's being showing them the same grace that you were shown. And
Absolutely.
So for me, I think discipleship requires that grittiness, if you will, if I can use that word,
Absolutely.
just to kind of get down in people's mess with them and help them develop and grow together and doing life with one another. So that's what that means to me.
Pastor Alex, I don't know what your background is. I don't know if you was raised in the church, brought up in the church. I don't know your history. But when you think of the Great Commission, talk to us.
Well, just to give a quick background, I've been in church longer than I've been alive. My mama took me to church when she was pregnant with me, along with my father.
That. Yeah.
So I've been in church even when I acted like church wasn't in me. I was still in church. So I'm a lifelong church boy. Prodigal, but at the same time, I came home more often, if we can put it that way.
Yes, sir.
But when we talk about the Great Commission, I think it's almost like we skipped in the entire first phrase of the verse, go ye therefore into all the world. Even just the first word, go. Because so many of our discipleship initiatives are focused on you coming into church, or you coming to this program, you coming to this service, when really discipleship starts with the 2-letter word in the process, and that's go. And somewhere along the line, between when Jesus got up and now, we stopped going. So that's one of the biggest challenges that we face, is that just we don't really go anymore. That's part of the reason why I enjoyed the pandemic to an extent, because it made the church go. You know, when your building's shut down, you got to find other ways to engage people, to engage your community, to reach and impact your communities. You had to actually go. There were churches I saw that went and shut down a laundromat and just paid for people's laundry. There were churches that were going to feed people that were in need. There were churches that were helping people get from point A to point B when certain traveling services were down, or when people were too scared to use Uber or Lyft. There were just a number of different ways that the church actually went. And then now that we're on the other side of it, one of the things that we're running the risk of doing again is getting back into invite mode instead of go mode. So we have to make sure that we as the church don't lose our go. Get out, go somewhere.
Yes.
Besides church.
Yes.
Right.
What would it look like? Is it possible for a congregation? Let's just talk about Love Center, right? Would it be possible for Bishop Salter just come in and be like, you know what? We're taking ministry outside. Everybody's expecting to come in there, AC, right? Just, you know, what we're used to, right? To sit down and just, bask in his presence, right? But he says, you know what? We're going outside. Do we need more of that? Like, what do we need more of? Is it spontaneousness, or like, what do we need? Do we need to teach the people how to be effective in their witness? What needs to be
honestly done? we ironically just got done going. We had a love week as we led up to our back to church Sunday. Typically when we go to back to church Sunday, we go outside and have church. But leading up to that, we went through various organizations and actually served the community outside of the four walls of the church, and did some things inside the four walls of the church as well. But we're definitely excited about the opportunity to get out and go more. And you have to have a certain level of training and understanding to help you be more effective in your witness, but also to just help you love people where they are. That's one of the things I loved about Jesus. There was no circumstance that was too ugly for him to be found in. And regardless of what the religious community might have thought about his presence in different places,
Sure.
He was still willing to be seen with people who needed him, no matter where they were, rather than be concerned with the cultural norms or the religious customs that said you shouldn't be here at this time. I used to tell people all the time, I had more conversations about God at 2:30 and 3 o'clock in the morning at Denny's than some people have all week outside of church.
Right.
Now, what led me to Denny's wasn't exactly the best thing.
I hear you, Rev.
But the ironic thing is, when God has a calling on your life, and when you've submitted to who God's called you to be, even when you have your hiccups, there's something about you that's different to people in different walks of life. Well, they'll either just start opening up to you, but opportunities present themselves for you to be church outside of church.
Yeah.
And if you could just recognize and capitalize on those, the kingdom would look a lot different.
Absolutely.
You know, Pastor Bree, you know, your ministry is so unique. You know, when you're making disciples in each chapter, how does your approach change? How does your style change? Like, what works, what doesn't work? How do you gauge that? Because you're saying, you know, 2 years old, the ministry is, so it's a big learning curve. So as you're
Absolutely.
out there, even connecting with other ministries, other
Right.
pastors, because your function is to pastor the people in the middle and say, here you go.
Yes.
What is that like in your arena?
Yeah, I think what can happen with Embrace is that Embrace can become a church that I don't want it to become. So it can become like a church like Love Center Church, where I'm not trying to lead
Yeah.
at least at this point where God's called me, I'm not trying to lead a church that way. And so if I'm not careful, it can become that. But I think the reason why we wrestle with that a little bit is that people will come to our chapters, they'll be a part of our conversations. They have this intentional one-on-one discipleship that's happening with them once a week. We have like our chapters range anywhere from 5 to 10 people, and so it's like, okay, this beautiful community. So then when they get shifted to a local church or a Christ Center community, they're missing that intimacy. And so what we try to do is try to help them get connected to a small group right away. Talk to one of the if I can't talk to the lead pastor, I love to talk to one of the pastors and say, hey, so and so is coming to your church. I want to get them connected. Can you connect them with someone from your church to help them along their journey? And really trying to emphasize in some of these churches as well what discipleship actually looks like. So it's like twofold on my end. I feel like it's the first fold is discipling the people in our chapter and helping our leaders learn what that means, but also helping churches develop effective discipleship models outside of their 4 to 7 week class or course, without rubbing against their own particular church culture, or not trying to come in and do a whole rehaul of their discipleship program, but meeting with the discipleship pastor, the connections pastor, and saying, hey, so and so's been a part of this church experience for a while. They're going to need something to grow into. And the most effective model I've seen for that is small group ministry when it's done well. And so helping churches and helping our individuals get integrated into that, I think, has been super helpful for us, at least so far.
I have to touch on this a little bit. Knowing the leadership that you're under, you're a support ministry. You're the number 2 man, woman, in the ministry. How does that play a role in the overall vision of the ministry? Like Pastor Alex, I personally knew you before you went to Love Center Church, Melbourne, and you were a lead pastor. And that was for whatever time, for whatever season. And now you're taking to the world, you're taking a back seat, right? Because our age group, everybody want to be a pastor. Everybody want their own church. Everybody want, their picture on the flyer. You're never named on a flyer unless, Bible study or something like that. Pastor Bree, support ministry, support staff. Why is that so needed? Support ministry for everybody to know their roles, own it, to walk in their calling. No one's jealous or envious, and how everything just works together to support the overall vision. Pastor Alex, you came in saying, I'll be your number 2.
Yeah, man. That's one of the great things about the experience I had being number 1 is I got to see all the things about that seat that I didn't necessarily felt called to. Not only that, some of the stuff I didn't like.
I hear you.
So beyond that, I was, even before going to that level of ministry, I was a support guy for the ministry I grew up in, through the ministerial staff and through the musician staff. And I always understood that the person out front doesn't look great without some people working behind them to make sure that certain things work. And we have a lot of people who just love the spotlight, but don't understand what it takes to make the spotlight stay on, or even turn on for that matter. And the way God has gifted me, I can see multiple areas of the ministry where the light needs to be shown, where things need to be tweaked and fixed and need to be emphasized, so that when we do put somebody out there out front, they have a firm foundation to stand on, outside of the Word of God and all those things that are, of course, standing forever. But make sure, hey, is the light bill paid? Yeah. Is the water bill paid?
Yeah, somebody got to
Is there enough water? Just the different things. Even if you're just putting people in place to manage all those different things, not enough people understand the power of what being a strong supporter is, because the glitz and glamour comes at the front of the stage. But I'm not necessarily addicted to the glamour. I'm more at the point in my life where I understand I'm addicted to purpose. I'm addicted to results, and I'm just trying to do whatever it takes for God to be pleased with my life.
Amen. I felt that, bro. I felt that, Rev. Pastor Bree, Bishop McRae. If I'll be honest, he was actually my high school mentor. I met him when he was a youth pastor at Macedonia in Eatonville. I'm going to pull that card on this show. And just seeing how far God has taken Bishop. Right now, I know you guys are about to go into a new, beautiful state-of-the-art building, multi-million-dollar facility. To God be the glory. Right now, you guys are in Jones High School. Listen, I peeked in your live stream. It is standing room only in a high school auditorium. Like, I believe like Bishop McRae's function is leadership.
Absolutely.
The demand, the calling on his life. I know that cross is heavy. Like, how do you make it every week underneath that type of atmosphere?
Yeah, Bishop makes it easy. He really does. From the moment about 2 years ago, I joined ECC. I met with him one-on-one, told him about the ministry. And it's morphed since then, and so I've checked in with him at every stage of its morphing. And he's been such a supporter. He's been a supporter in every way. Supporter speaking prophetically into the ministry, a supporter of me personally, a supporter of the ministry, even publicly. Always honored me in that regard. And so honestly, when I first started coming around, he was like, "Hey Bree, do you want to kind of help out around here?" And I was like, "No, Bishop, I'm good. Been there, done that. I'm good." Embraces my thing. I want to be in the pew.
I'll usher
and go home. Yes. I'll usher. I'll be on the prayer team, but after that, bye. I'm going home. Mm-hmm. But over time, I just serving under his leadership and him receiving that well, and say, "Okay, I got you," but still supporting me, not treating me differently, not honoring me any differently. Over time, I said, "You know what? Bishop's been such a blessing to me. How can I lighten the weight on his shoulders?" We have a phenomenal team already, and so it's Bishop, and then the way our leadership works, there's pastors under him, and then ministers. And elders, other people, mothers that help out. And I said, "So how can I help you out?" And he asked what my kind of specialty was, and that's discipleship. And so as we're growing, we want to disciple well. So really, I'm just helping along Pastor Tavares, who's our kind of discipleship pastor. I was coming alongside Pastor Tavares and saying, "How can I help you? How can I help this church be effective in a discipleship model as we grow in those ways?" And so, in that way, similar to Pastor Alex, in my naivete when I was younger, I wanted to be that lead pastor. I was ready for it.
Yeah.
Now that I've gotten older and I've seen what's behind the scenes, and I've had opportunities to get very close to being a lead pastor, it made me want to run the opposite direction. Which is why when Bishop was like, "Hey, you want to help out?" I said, "Actually, no, I'm good. I don't want to see what this might involve. No, I'm good." So now I don't want to do that. I really do like being. I feel like I'm the second in command for churches in general, because I just get to help push people to your church, and with no competition or anything. I don't need anything from you. I'm not looking for money from you. We're actually trying to get more money so we can give more money away. And so in that space, I'm super comfortable right there, because as you guys know, pastors carry a weight, especially senior pastors and lead pastors carry a weight that not many people understand. Beyond the glitz and the glam and the reserved seat and all that, that's the least we could do for some of the things that they carry throughout their weeks. And so I'm just truly honored to be in that position. And I do believe that the way up is down, that oftentimes serving is the way that we can really walk in purpose, like Pastor Alex was saying. If I want to walk in my purpose, by me serving Bishop McCrae in ECC allows me to walk even better as the lead pastor of Embrace Church.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Listen, I got another video I'm going to show to help lead into our next segment. Y'all, check this spoken word out. Turn it up.
There I was, standing shamefully in a courtroom, surrounded by demons on my left and angels on my right. Satan as the persecutor, holding millions of records about my life, and God sitting on a throne with a mighty gavel in his hand. I had no lawyer. Placed on trial for things such as lying, stealing, and fornication. For this was the beginning of my tribulation, for there was no reason to plead an innocent statement, for all the evidence was sitting right there with Satan. The demons smiled as tears rolled down the judge's eyes, for they clearly knew that now was the hour of my demise. But wait. In came a light shining so bright that the demons smiling suddenly jumped with fright. And the man that walked in that night was none other than Jesus Christ. Darkness departed to give way, and glory was all the angels could say, as the man that walked in that night pulled out a lighter and immediately set Satan's records against me on fire. He took the sentence file and erased my name, looked at me in the eyes and said, "Daughter, I'll take the blame." Handcuffs were placed on this man and he was thrown to the ground. The entire courtroom gasped at this horrendous sound, and the sudden ceased the beat of his heart. The man that walked in glowing had now become dark. I did this to him. My lying, my stealing, my cheating, and he took the pain and spent 3 days in the hell that I was to go to for eternity. I left the courtroom that day, and there was nothing I could say. I was found innocent, for Christ handled the debt that I was to pay. This type of love is more than you could give to a girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, wife. This man died for me. I owe him my life. And even though my life is not at all worth it, how could you ever trade preferent for perfect? See, I gave my life to Christ and suddenly picked up a mop. The lying, cursing, cheating, all that had to stop because my life had been bought. And it'd be a shame to sit there and do nothing but let it rot. I'm not perfect, and the will to sin hasn't completely diminished from my life. But I believe Jesus' words when he died for me on that cross. It is finished.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
You lucky I'm trying to hold it together on your broadcast.
Go ahead.
Same
Talk
here.
to us.
No.
Yeah.
Listen, it's unscripted. You know, Pastor Alex, it's unscripted. This is your first time seeing that. You had no idea I was going to drop that video. What's going through your mind right now, Pastor Alex?
Man, I'm not going to do it all the way. All I'm going to say is things like that hit me impactfully because I'm not so far removed from my past that I don't remember exactly what it is Christ did for me. So that entire presentation was in a nutshell my life. It's really all of our lives, man. But just when you've gotten so caught up in your ministry function and in the different things that you go through on a day in and day out, sometimes you get too busy to remember what Christ did for us on the cross. And sometimes a simple reminder of that just really takes all the cake, man. So
yes, sir.
I'm gonna behave myself for the first time on here, but you do that to me again on the next broadcast, it's going down.
Pastor Bree, I know I the people couldn't see your reaction. You know, I can see your reaction as you're listening, and I saw a lot of emotions just going through your mind. Talk to us right now. Like, what did that video provoke from you?
Yeah, I think similar to Pastor Alex, my life's message is one of grace. And everywhere I go to speak, when I go to preach at different spaces, I always incorporate grace. And grace is something that I think sometimes we get afraid to talk about because we're afraid people are just going to do whatever they want to do. And,
sure.
But hearing that testimony and hearing that message is a reminder.
Man, oh man.
Oh,
I'm back.
okay.
But But no, it's just a reminder of God's pursuit of us and God's pursuit of our hearts. And so that's something that God's been really speaking to me about recently, is how he pursues us. A lot of times in church language, we talk about us going after him, but really our whole salvation walk is him pursuing us. And he pursues us daily. Faith and mercy and grace pursue us daily.
You're in the book. You're in the book.
And so, yeah, it's not about a prayer I'm saying necessarily. It's about his pursuit in my heart. The fact that he loved me enough to send his son to die for us. I agree with Pastor Alex. Sometimes we get to this space where we get so used to we learn how to do church, but we don't know the gospel. We learn how to do church, but we don't actually know how to follow Christ. And I think a lot of people are tired of doing church. That's why I'm finding, even the ministry that we are, these aren't people who are just like deconstructing just because they want to be lead pastors themselves. They're deconstructing because they got tired of doing church. They were done with church. And they want a relationship with the Lord. And so yeah, that's what this book. I can talk all day about that. But yeah, that was good.
So I have to ask, in the dispensation that we're living in right now, can we please define what is the difference between faith and spirituality?
Yeah, I think spirituality has this notion of control. We want to control something. For example, I want to burn some sage, so now I have the power to now, make my house smell like Thanksgiving. Or I want to rub a crystal because something's going to happen when I do that, right? Where faith requires trust and belief. And I believe it was Apostle Brian Meadows who said this. I want to give him credit for it. But he talked about how when we are engaging in some of these spirituality moments, we don't really have to give up anything. We don't have to surrender anything. We don't really have to trust anything. I light a candle and I feel like, oh, it's taken care of. My house is clean of evil spirits now. Or I rub a rock and I'm like, okay, I can go. I'm wearing this crystal around my neck. I'm safe. Whereas faith says, no, I'm going to surrender my life to this man named Jesus. I'm going to pray. I'm going to fast. I'm going to be in my word. It requires work. And so I think sometimes spirituality can be a lazy approach to an end that is a good end. You want peace. You want freedom from evil spirits. That end is good. But I think sometimes the issue is that we can get lazy and not actually begin to trust. And so I think for me, the difference between faith and spirituality is that faith requires trust and requires effort on our part, whereas spirituality is nuanced in some way, but just very kind of like do what you want and not, you can kind of have more control over it. Or you can feel like you have more control over it. Just in some of the things that I've seen.
Pastor Alex, I believe in Jesus, but I don't go to church. Speak to that.
That sounds more like Pastor Bree's specialty right there, with the people in the middle. But you come across people all the time who have jaded experiences with God's people, and as a result, charge those towards God himself. And even in some cases, we're now to the point where they don't charge it to God himself, but they say they ain't dealing with his people no more.
Sure.
So really, the first thing I try to do is help people understand that people are people everywhere, no matter whether it's in a church house or any other type of house, whether it's at work, whether it's at the club, whether it's at a grocery store.
Sure.
People are going to people no matter where you are. And sadly, I wish people would do better. But the sad truth is we don't always live up to the standard that we've been called to live to. But at the same time, when you have resolved to love Jesus above all else, you then understand that he loves the people that you're trying to separate from as well. So from there, you begin to operate with a grace that allows you to forgive them for their shortcomings. Because the truth is, you have some shortcomings you need to be forgiven for also.
Sure.
In the midst of your Christian community experience, which is why all throughout the New Testament, you hear things about the need for forgiveness amongst the community of believers. So one of the things we have to get back to teaching is how to operate as a Christian community in the midst of turmoil, so that in times of trial and tribulation, we don't run away from each other, but we actually run towards Jesus and find each other there in his presence.
From what I'm gathering, just listening to your conversations, both of you, is faith only found in Jesus? Can faith be in something else? Because when you define faith, Pastor Bree, you said my faith is in Jesus, like an individual. I'm grounded in Jesus. Can you have faith in something else other than Jesus, or does that become spirituality?
Yeah, I think there are people who maybe try to have faith in something else, but I think I would question that is really faith in something else, because I think oftentimes those things you can actually, they're tangible, right? You can feel them. And we don't understand from Scripture that faith is the substance of things not seen. And so our faith in Jesus requires us to believe. There's a certain aspect of belief that comes with our faith that we can't actually see necessarily the deity in which we worship. I think people who are a part of other faiths might say that they have a similar faith as well, right? People who are practicing Islam or things like that they're practicing something where they can't actually see the deity or the belief in which, or the thing in which they're worshiping. But I believe, obviously, if we're on this podcast, that true faith is in Jesus alone.
Amen. So, people in the middle, people just giving their life to Christ, people that relocate for jobs or family reasons. Pastor Alex, Pastor Bree, I'm gonna throw this to you, Pastor Bree. What advice would you give someone looking for a church home?
I think it's helping them realize what the church actually is. It's not a place for you to go and be a consumer. It's a place for you to go and be a participant. In fact, Nathan Finocchio is a theologian, and he wrote a book called Killer Church. And he described the Protestant church as a space where every Christian believer can walk into a church and understand that they are now the priests in that church. So stop waiting on the pastor and the worship leader to be your priest. You are the one bringing the offering to God. So you go into church to bring your offering to God, whether that be your worship through song, your worship through listening to the word of God being taught, your worship through your giving, and your worship through community. And so I think part of the beauty of getting the pastor people in the middle is that a lot of these people are deconstructing, but we're also reconstructing. So in the reconstructing stage, I will say, okay, now when you go back to church, or when you go to church for the first time, here are the things that you're looking for. You're not looking for, oh, I didn't like the way that band sound, or I don't like that pastor said something that hurt my feelings.
They're more mature. They're more mature now.
Yes, yes. And so now we're saying, okay, I'm now going to church as a participator and as a priest to give my offering to the Lord, not as someone who's just going to church to say, okay, entertain me, worship team. Pastor, this better be good. You better give me a word that's going to make me feel good. No, I'm going to church and I'm entering in to give my offering, regardless of what the praise team sounds like, regardless if my pastor's there or not,
sure.
regardless if Sister so-and-so said hi to me. So I think that's the biggest thing I would tell people when they're looking for a church home. Don't look for a space that is just going to be like the right genre or the right style of worship that you want. Look for a space that you feel like you can go to and in a healthy way bring your offering. And sometimes when you look at it from that angle, you'll probably end up going to a church you feel like you would never go to, because this church actually provides a space for me to give my offering in a way that allows me to feel comfortable. That's if they sing all hymns, if they are singing Kurt Franklin every week, whatever it is, what helps me give my offering to the Lord. And so that would be the biggest advice I would give someone looking for a church home.
Pastor Alex, I took in y'all live stream not too long ago, and y'all gonna have to need another service, real. Y'all have families coming. I mean, that's a beautiful thing when you see families coming to worship together. Pastor Alex, talk to us. What advice would you give someone looking for a church home? And you're a musician, so I know somebody like us, we're gonna be like, hey, listen, that music gotta be on point, man. Like, that's number one. I was talking to my brother he has relocated in the Panhandle, and you gotta have that. You gotta feel that. You gotta feel that down in your shana now. You know what I'm saying? So, what advice would you give someone looking for a church home?
Man, as I've matured, I understand that soon and very soon in that worship service, the music is going to stop. The choir is going to stop singing. The praise team is going to stop singing. Everybody's going to calm down. And at the moment the word goes forth, I need something that's going to help give me power to live. That's going to help frame the purpose God has called me to. And that's going to call me to action on how I can serve the kingdom and the community that I'm in. So I start now with the impact of the word. Whereas when I was immature, I started with a lot of those other things. Is this a place where I can grow? And does my presence here help this place grow? Those are the two main questions I would ask.
I have to ask, your various backgrounds. I'm gonna poke a little bit. I'm gonna be a little bit of nosy here. Pastor Bree, outside of your mama, daddy, Pookie, them, Ray, the dog, and Bishop McRae, protocol has been established. Okay,
Yeah.
outside of them,
yeah.
who are your top 3 ministry influences?
Yeah, my first one would have to be an author. He goes by Donald Miller. I read his book, Blue Like Jazz, in high school. And I think it's when the Lord began to frame my thinking and even my theology on what church was supposed to look like. This before I even started pastoring. But the way he writes and the transparency in which he writes really helped me to see my faith journey in a different way. And I think it also helps me now be able to pastor those people in the middle, because he kind of writes from that middle space of like, I know Jesus, but I kind of don't know how I feel. And so reading some of his things growing up in a very conservative Pentecostal church, he was saying some things where I was like, you can't say that. Like, no, we believe Jesus, period. You can't have doubts.
Yeah.
But him, a huge influence. I will say one family member, my late aunt, Loretta Thompson, she was the first pastor in our family and my first pastor personally. And so she was a great influence on us how to do ministry, even in being hurt, how to do ministry and love people well, how to do ministry selflessly. She was huge in that. And then my last influence is kind of more broad, but creatives. God surrounded me with a lot of creative people, musicians, writers, artists. I just have a lot of those creatives around me. God's always just had those people around me, but they always push me to think outside the box. So even when I'm thinking about things like Embrace, when I tell them, they're like, okay, let's go. When I first felt like the Lord called me to Embrace, I said, no, this is crazy. I've never heard this before. But creatives help me. They help stretch my mind. They help me keep going forward. And so that would be my third kind of influence in my life.
Pastor Alex, 3 ministry influences.
I'm going to break a few of your rules, even though you gave some groundwork and laid some protocols. So first I'm going to shout out Bishop Gary and Pastor Tammy. Appreciate y'all. But for real, these are the first leaders that I've had this close of a relationship with outside of church. I've had some great pastors growing up, but for the majority of my life, I was either a child, I was either on the outs from church, or I was in ministry performing a function, but not having the close-knit relationship that we have. So they get one of those shout outs. The second one I would give is to my late grandfather, the Reverend Henry R. Jackson Sr., who showed me an intelligent approach to ministry from a young age that sparked my interest and my passion and desire for not just the word of God, but the right dividing of the word of truth, and to just be able to speak to the problems of culture, the challenges of life, and the various things that we go through with an intelligent and still emotional approach to really tap in to the broad spectrum of experiences we can have as believers. After that, I would violate you again and say my cousin, the Reverend Leon Tucker Jr. He is the person who slapped some sense into me when I need it, and has been slapping sense into me since I was 2-3 years old in the choir. He's been the one who has helped me through a lot of different experiences in life. So I got to shout him out. And last but not least, I would say Bishop Merton Clark from Truth Revealed International Ministries. He is the one who saw my life headed in a certain direction and took a certain mentorship to me at the age of 21, even though he had been around me since I was a kid. But at the age of 21, he really helped to reshape the direction of my life and instill wisdom in me that has helped to guide the path that I'm on today.
Pastor Alex, Pastor Bree. Man, that was a lot. I want to say thank you for taking this time out to connect with us here on the Church's Pulse. It's been a pleasure. I know the people are just soaking this in. Pastor Alex, last final words. Give your shout out, give your shameless plugs, man. Go ahead, man of God.
Well, we done already shout out Love Center Church Melbourne, whole Love Center Church family, Titusville, Orlando, Salter Nation. I'm an honorary Salter. We appreciate you all so much for everything that you do. All our campuses are doing awesome things. Love City Cafe is all over Brevard County. Make sure you stop and get you a wonderful beverage. I'm not doing too much nowadays myself, but just looking for the next ways that God is getting ready to use me as I prepare to take on some untraditional platforms and just reaching people and making an impact in the community.
Man, earlier when we had a little conversation, man, you got a little one, man. Talk about your family real quick, man.
Huge shout out to my wife, Melissa. Love you to death. And my son, Hayes. Love him too. I hope he in there asleep. But parenthood has utterly changed our lives for the better. It is the reason for this big old goofy smile on my face. God has blessed us in more ways than I can imagine. And just being a good husband and father is all I strive to be outside of and before I do anything great in church.
Pastor Bree,
Yes.
talk to us. Give your shout out, your shameless plugs.
Absolutely. I need to shout out Bishop Derek L. McCrae, a leader's leader, and so I'm so grateful for him being my pastor, especially in this season. Yes, I'm a pastor who believes in having a pastor, so grateful for him. So excited about all that Embrace is doing. We have 2 conferences coming up. One's coming up this October 13th through the 15th, right here in Los Angeles, California. And then we have our big conference that happens in Orlando, January 12th through the 14th. Is happening then. So we're super excited about that. You can keep up with us on our social media channels. And last but not least, I want to shout out my mom, who I know is watching this right now. So I love you, Mom. And so happy to be on the show today.
Hey, listen, everybody, thank you guys for tuning in to the Church's Pulse here on Daily Faith Network. Keep it locked right here. We have Love Kingdom Fellowship with Pastor Warren and Pastor Cynthia McKnight at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Keep it locked right here on Daily Faith Network. See you next time.